Most of the Earth makes sense. Mountains, rivers, canyons, shaped slowly over time. But some places don't follow those rules. In this countdown, you'll see 9 places that don't look real. And why the closer we get to number 1, the harder they are to explain. This doesn't look like Earth. It looks like the island itself is melting. This is Kauai, one of the oldest Hawaiian islands. And unlike the flat beaches people imagine when they think of Hawaii, this island is violent. Jagged cliffs, deep scars in the land, and walls of rock that rise straight out of the ocean. Over millions of years, rain, wind, and volcanic activity shaped Kauai. That's the explanation. But when you look closer, the patterns don't feel random. Valleys cut with almost perfect symmetry. Waterfalls slicing directly through solid rock. From above, it feels less like erosion and more like the island was carved. Some geologists believe Kauai shows what happens when nature has too much time. Others argue the scale doesn't fully add up because erosion usually softens landscapes. Kauai looks sharpened, almost exaggerated, and Kauai is just the beginning. Because the next place on this list wasn't shaped by rainfall or erosion alone, it was carved on a scale so massive it can be seen from space. This shouldn't exist at this scale. One river isn't supposed to do this. This is the Grand Canyon, over 440 kilometers long, more than a mile deep in some places. It's so massive that when you stand at the edge, your brain struggles to understand the size. According to science, the Grand Canyon was carved by the Colorado River, slowly, over millions of years. That explanation is taught in textbooks. But here's the problem. The Colorado River today is relatively small, and rivers usually create smooth, winding valleys, not razor-sharp walls, not vertical cliffs. Some geologists argue the erosion doesn't fully explain the depth, speed, or the strange layers exposed along the canyon walls. And the Grand Canyon is already considered a natural wonder. But the next place on this list looks even less real, because it's not just one formation, it's an entire tropical landscape that feels digitally generated. This looks like a movie set. The Koh Phi Phi Islands in Thailand rise straight out of bright turquoise water with towering limestone cliffs that don't seem connected to anything around them. There's no gradual shoreline, no smooth transition from land to sea, just vertical rock exploding from the ocean. From above, the contrast feels unreal. Deep green jungle on top, electric blue water below, and sharp, isolated formations standing alone in the middle of the sea. It almost looks rendered, like someone increased the saturation and sharpened the edges. Geologists explain that these islands were once ancient coral reefs. Over millions of years, the coral hardened into limestone. Then tectonic forces lifted the rock upward while erosion carved away everything around it. That's the explanation. But what makes this place feel artificial isn't just how it formed, it's how perfectly separated each formation is. Each cliff stands like its own pillar, like separate pieces placed carefully into the water instead of shaped randomly by nature. And when boats move between them, the scale feels distorted. Too vertical, too dramatic, too clean. And if these islands already look too cinematic to be natural, the next place on this list doesn't rise from the ocean. It rises straight into the sky. This shouldn't exist. Half Dome rises almost 5,000 feet above Yosemite Valley, and it doesn't look natural. One side is perfectly rounded. The other is cut clean like something massive sliced it in half. From a distance, it feels artificial, too smooth, too symmetrical, almost unfinished. Geologists believe Half Dome was formed by millions of years of granite cooling deep underground, followed by uplift and erosion. Over time, glaciers carved away the surrounding rock, exposing the massive granite core we see today. But here's what makes it unsettling. Glaciers don't usually create clean vertical faces like this. They scrape, they smooth, they round, Half Dome looks deliberate, like something removed the missing half instead of wearing it down. And when you stand at the base and look up, the scale doesn't make it feel more natural. It makes it feel more impossible. And if a mountain sliced in half sounds extreme, the next place on this list isn't carved by ice. It's shaped by water so perfectly that the entire landscape looks painted. This doesn't look like real terrain. The Li River winds through southern China, surrounded by towering limestone peaks that rise straight out of the ground like stone needles. They don't look stable. They don't look random. They almost look placed. When morning fog settles between the mountains, the entire landscape feels surreal. The peaks float above the mist. The river reflects everything perfectly. It's so symmetrical it feels artificial. In fact, this scenery is so unusual that it appears on China's 20 yuan banknote. Geologists say these formations were created through a process called karst topography. Millions of years ago, rainwater slowly dissolved layers of limestone, leaving behind these isolated stone pillars. But erosion usually smooths landscapes. It doesn't create dozens of near-identical vertical towers rising side by side. And when you see them stretching into the distance, fading into the haze, it feels less like natural randomness and more like repetition, like the same shape copied again and again across the horizon. And if this looks too precise to be accidental, the next place on this list doesn't rise gently from a river. It explodes from beneath the earth itself. This looks like another planet. Yellowstone is one of the most active volcanic regions on Earth. But when you see it, it doesn't look volcanic. It looks synthetic. Bright orange pools, neon blue water, steam rising from the ground as if the Earth itself is breathing. The colors are so intense they almost look edited, but they're not. Those vibrant rings around the hot springs are created by heat-loving bacteria. Each color represents a different temperature zone. The hotter the water, the fewer organisms can survive. It's science, but that doesn't make it feel normal. Because beneath Yellowstone sits a massive supervolcano, one of the largest active volcanic systems on the planet. The ground here isn't stable. It rises, it falls, it shifts. Entire sections of the park are essentially floating above a chamber of magma. And when you realize that everything you're looking at is sitting on top of something capable of reshaping the continent, it stops feeling beautiful and starts feeling fragile. And if glowing water and a sleeping supervolcano sound unreal, the next place on this list doesn't glow. It stretches so far down that your eyes can't measure the depth. This doesn't look real. Abel Tasman National Park in New Zealand looks like someone combined two different landscapes into one. Golden beaches that glow against dense, untouched forest, water so clear it almost disappears, and massive granite formations scattered along the coastline like oversized sculptures. From above, the contrast feels exaggerated. Bright sand, deep green jungle, calm, glass-like ocean. It looks balanced, too balanced, almost staged. The granite boulders along the shore are some of the oldest rocks in New Zealand. They formed deep underground hundreds of millions of years ago before being exposed by erosion and shifting land. But erosion usually creates chaos. Here, it feels curated. The curves of the coastline flow smoothly from one cove to another. The forests stop almost perfectly where the sand begins. The rock formations sit in positions that feel intentional, as if the entire coastline was arranged for maximum visual impact. And when the tide shifts and the water pulls back, hidden paths appear between the coves, connecting beaches that look completely isolated. It feels designed. And if this coastline already looks too perfect to be accidental, the next place on this list doesn't sit quietly by the ocean. It drops so far down that your brain struggles to understand the depth. This doesn't feel like normal terrain. Yosemite National Park is famous for its scale, but when you stand in the valley and look up, it doesn't just feel big, it feels unnatural. Massive granite walls rise thousands of feet straight into the sky. El Capitan looks like a vertical wall placed there deliberately. Half Dome appears sliced clean in half. There's no gradual slope, no soft transition, just sheer rock towering above everything. Geologists say Yosemite was shaped by glaciers during the last ice age. Massive sheets of ice slowly carved through the valley, scraping away rock and exposing the granite beneath. That explains the depth, but it doesn't fully explain the precision. Glaciers usually leave behind rounded terrain, smoothed edges, gentle curves. Yosemite looks sharpened. The vertical faces are almost too clean, too dramatic, too perfect. And when light hits the granite at sunset, the walls glow in a way that feels almost artificial, like a backdrop, like something built to look monumental. And if this already feels too extreme to be natural, the final place on this list doesn't look monumental. It looks extraterrestrial. This doesn't look like Earth. San Pedro de Atacama sits in one of the driest deserts on the planet. But when you see it, it feels less like a desert and more like another world. The ground is cracked and sculpted into strange formations. Sharp ridges twist across the landscape. Salt flats stretch into the horizon like frozen oceans. And in certain valleys, the terrain turns red, orange, even violet under the light of the setting sun. It looks extraterrestrial, almost Martian. Scientists say this region was shaped by volcanic activity, tectonic shifts, and millions of years of extreme dryness. With almost no rainfall, the land hasn't softened, it hasn't rounded, it hasn't healed. Instead, it's been preserved in a raw, exposed state. Wind carves the surface into sharp lines. Minerals rise to the top, leaving white salt patterns across the earth. And geothermal activity simmers quietly beneath parts of the region. But what makes Atacama feel unreal isn't just the dryness, it's the silence. And yet, this is still Earth. At least, that's what we believe. And this is still Earth. But if you think these places look unreal, wait until you see the formations that don't just look impossible, they seem to break the rules of physics.